Okay, next up, I'd like to call upon John Klein. Please introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, if any, city, town you reside in. You'll have 5 minutes to address City Council, after which time you'll have an opportunity to answer questions from Council if they have any for you.
Your Worship and City Council, I've identified some shortcomings in the Catalyst project being proposed.
If you could just take a second to introduce yourself first. It didn't come through in the...
Certainly. Okay. I'm John Klein. I'm representing myself today. So I've identified some shortcomings in the Catalyst project being proposed. First, there's another recent survey that went out, I noticed, and in the previous survey, it was somewhat unpopular to be building a downtown sports arena. And I'd like Council to follow direction from residents that they're getting on this, especially since it will be installed over top of several heritage buildings at one of the proposed locations. And as the Chair just mentioned, the tax base in downtown is significant. I think building a single large facility downtown, taking up a lot of lots with a single, maybe not even, if it's city owned, it won't be paying taxes. That might actually impact downtown's tax base fairly significantly. Perhaps the administration could address that. Anyway, at this council meeting, you were advised by the city administration and several councillors to reject a daycare because there wasn't enough parking in the street. And is there going to be enough parking downtown for an arena if this is the thinking of adding new amenities and businesses? If the primary consideration to whether to allow something new in Regina is if someone can park their car beside it, then I'd suggest that you have to reject the arena portion of the Catalyst project or become obvious hypocrites. For example, it should occur to you that parents could walk, bus, and bike to a daycare with their children. I also found weakness in the wording of the project. Take the following line, for example, quote, consider the City of Regina Sustainability 2050 targets when determining the related design, construction, and facility operations. Consider. Consider is the word Regina uses when it doesn't mean to do anything. You're only considering my delegation, but you're not likely to do a thing about it. So the word consider is not nearly as strong as it needs to be. Implement, for example, is an action word and an acceptable change. Several councillors identified significant cost savings and jobs created by implementing the sustainability framework, but which big moves in the sustainability framework are being satisfied by this Catalyst project? You haven't considered that, obviously. A year after passing the sustainability framework, you've purchased one electric vehicle so far. That's actually fewer electric vehicles you've managed to acquire than I have in both my personal and professional volunteer roles in the city. And you plan to get some battery electric buses in the distant future because it takes more than a year for them to arrive once ordered. So the progress in reducing emissions to net zero is objectively not going very well. Building yet another sports stadium for wealthy team owners is not going to help. As comedian John Oliver said on his show years ago, make them pay. Make the wealthy team owners buy their sports stadiums. Just say no to wealthy team owners who want to socialize the cost of their building while privatizing the profits. Saskatoon is going through the same thing right now with a struggle to put the SaskTel Center downtown instead. It's happening across the country, really, and it's not okay for a city that has limited finances to continue to build sports arenas for wealthy team owners. I know you've got your heart set on building a new pool too with this transit money, the infrastructure money from the federal government. I realize that's practically a done deal. It's a pet project of Her Worship, and that's not a bad idea to include a geothermal heating unit once it does get done. However, since you're building a new building, you have a better opportunity that you cannot afford to miss. It makes sense to tick a box in the sustainability framework and design the building so it's heated 90% or more by passive solar. That means it doesn't even need solar panels installed to stay toasty warm in minus 25-degree weather. There are examples in Saskatchewan to learn from, including the first passive house in the whole world, invented and built on Rink Avenue in 1977, and guess which city? Your Regina. Older buildings like the library needs to be retrofitted with renewable energy technologies to stay viable in a net zero community, but tearing it down for a new building is yet another violation of your own sustainability framework plan, and will be the removal of yet another historic building. Please keep it real.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Just looking to see if there's any questions. I see no questions. You've been clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Delegation 23.